Hello and welcome to Thomas Geiger Car. Today with one of the most craziest electric vehicles ever made. Do you remember Terminator movies and the strong statement, "I'll be back"? Terminator, this was Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Arnold Schwarzenegger was a huge fan of the Hummer before he turned into green and went to EV. But now the Hummer, his Hummer, is back as a green car, as the fanciest EV the market has seen yet. And even if there is no doubt in what type of vehicle that is, the GM designers have stated it bold and bright into the former grille. So if you open up the vehicle, the lights will come up and everybody can see this is the new Hummer EV. But seeing it is the one thing, driving it is the other thing. So if you want to know what this vehicle can, and if it's more than a toy for the riches, but a cool tool for the outdoors, join me on my first test drive and I'll tell you more about it. Okay, finally sitting in the Hummer EV for the first time and experiencing one of its major features right from the start, the power acceleration. It's claimed to be the super truck, so the super sports car amongst the trucks. Not a surprise, with over 1600 Newton meters of torque, and it should do 0 to 60 in about 3 seconds. Not sure if we will achieve that on gravel, but we can at least try to get that thing going, and it is impressive. It is really impressive seeing that giant leap forward and get going. So we're talking about the Edition 1 that has 3 motors with about 1000 horsepower, and to serve this amount of power it has one of the biggest, maybe the biggest batteries that is mounted in a kind of a passenger car, with a capacity of more than 200 kilowatt hours. That gives you a range of 500 kilometers if you're really keen on driving 500 kilometers through the dust and through the mud. Since the battery is so huge, you have to have a very fast charging, otherwise you will stick on the charger for days instead of hours. That's why General Motors installed a 350 kilowatt charger, making this car also one of the fastest charging vehicles on the market and bringing down the charging time significantly. So you at the end have the same charging time as you would have in a Cadillac Lyriq. The Edition 1 starts with a fascinating price of about $110,000. There will be cheaper versions coming up with 2 motors only, 625 horsepower, 830 horsepower, so still enough to have lots of fun. Now we're going to experience another really cool feature that only the Hummer has, the kind of Crabwalk. That is making use of the all-wheel steering, making use of the perfect power distribution between the axles. So I just have to hold the button for 5 seconds, have to see the screen coming up, and then I can let go and can start driving, and the car is steering with both axles and all the wheels, and I really go like a crab. Can go back again, and the cool thing is you can not only see that outside of the window, no, you can also see that on the screen. And if the screen is dirty, which can happen in circumstances like that, it even has a washer for the camera, so you can still look and can still see. That is a unique feature. Haven't seen that in any other car before. The roads we're driving here, or let's say the passes we're driving here, are pretty simple until now, and you don't need a Hummer to go on a gravel road. You would do that almost with a Corvette if you want to. You just have to clean it up afterwards. But the car is capable of much, much more, and there is a big off-road going screen here for a reason. We have tons of drive modes for every surface and every condition, and making the car really versatile and somehow connecting to the history the vehicle had. No, it's not a military vehicle anymore, but it is as capable as it could go to war. Another special feature of the Hummer and its all-wheel steering is to be witnessed in the terrain mode, because there is a different ratio used in every drive mode that switches between front and rear axle. While in the standard driving we have a ratio from 1 to 0.3 towards the rear, in the off-road mode we have 1 to 0.6, and if we go in the terrain mode, which is the most severe off-road mode, it's even 1 to 1.2, means the rear axle steers faster and more than the front axle, making this car almost slide or drift around the corners, which is a bit of a weird feeling, but once you get used to it, you have the feeling you can position the car more precisely, you get it around the corners, around tight corners, better and faster, and it really helps you master the challenges that off-road can offer. While we've been driving and while I've been explaining all that stuff, you might have seen that we've been going up pretty steep hills and going down pretty steep hills, and it just doesn't matter. That's the advantage of the instant torque of the electric motors and the huge amount of torque that is available. You don't have to think about how do I approach that angle, how do I approach that hill, how do I go down there. You don't have to accelerate and gain traction, you don't have to rev the engine up, you just cruise around, and once you need it, you hit the pedal a bit faster and a bit tighter, and the car just goes up. That makes off-road driving really, really easy. The only problem is the range is limited. It is a huge range, but if you go on a long distance off-road drive, you just have to remind and bear in mind you need to end up at a charger. Or you have to have one of that nice trolleys that I've seen here on the proving ground, because Ford has developed a mobile fuel cell charging system for just cases like that. So if you come up in the wilderness to your camp and somebody has already set up the camp, and if there's no power connector, maybe you're lucky and there is a fuel cell powered supercharger waiting for you, making your Hummer EV ready to the next adventure just the morning after. GM didn't even try to make this car sleek, aerodynamic, or even modern looking. No, it is unmistakably a Hummer. It is a bold statement, it is rough, it is rugged, and it is made for off-road and adventure. It looks like a tool and not like a toy, like other SUVs and other off-road going cars, even on the electric avenue. No, this car is rugged, it is rough, and it has all you need to go off-road. We have a huge ground clearance, even with the big battery underneath. We have angles departing and approaching that allows you to go up and down steep hills, and we have off-road tires with more than 22-inch. And as it's used to be with a truck, we have a truck bed to haul and to carry everything you need in the outdoors. Tents, bikes, tools, whatever you need, this car will bring it to wherever you need it. If you want it a little bit smaller and a bit more locked up, you just have to be patient. Then same as Rivian did it with the RT1, GM is also developing a truck version without the pickup bed. So the new car will be a bit smaller, not much, it will still be a huge giant, but it will look a little bit smaller, it will have a closed back, and you can carry your goods without showing them others and without risking theft. While the car looks pretty old-fashioned from the outside, the interior is high-tech for the Generation E, like a huge smartphone for the outdoors. We have a digital cluster instrument and we have a huge screen sitting next to it with all the displays you might need when going off-road. So you can see the car in every perspective. You have tons of cameras to show the vehicle, and you have for sure all the charging, programming, all that you need. Plus audio, video, plus connectivity. But even if the car looks pretty modern, it is still a tool and a workhorse, and you can play around with it like you could do with the old model. Same as, for example, in a Ford Bronco or in a Jeep Wrangler, you can even dismount the doors and the roof panels and you're sitting in a fully convertible vehicle. Also quite a cool stuff. Thanks for joining me on that first test drive with the Hummer EV. A car that kind of blends Star Wars on the one side and Jurassic Park on the other side, because it combines the past and the future. Yes, it is a toy, totally unnecessary, but it delivers lots of fun. And it's done with a twinkle in the eye, especially if you consider, for example, the sports mode that is called WTF. I know what you're thinking about, and no, that's not what the engineers meant. They call it Watts to Freedom, and this car delivers freedom on every road it goes. It is as fast as a hypercar on the highway or the racetrack, and it brings you wherever you want on the countryside and off-road, making it the perfect toy and the perfect tool. Only problem is, it's mainly built for the US. But since petrol cars are bad and EVs are green, this car really can make it to the rest of the world as well.